Hello, and thank you for joining us. I appreciate you taking the time to work on developing your English skills and personal growth. There is one uncomfortable truth that many English learners only admit after many years, and that is the more they study English in school, the less confident they feel when speaking in real life. You may know grammar rules, sentence structures, and test answers, but when you face a real person, your mind suddenly goes blank. It is not because you are bad at English, but because the way you learned it was never designed for real conversations. And when a language is not connected to real life, it slowly becomes pressure instead of a tool. The most common way people learn English is learning to remember, not learning to use. We write down many new words, study nice-looking structures, and finish exercises, but we rarely practice using them naturally in real situations. After some time, many learners feel like they know a lot, but still do not know where to start when they need to speak. Slowly, the brain starts to believe that English is complicated, heavy, and only belongs to books, not daily life. The truth is, you do not need thousands of words to start communicating. What you need first is a small group of very common and familiar words that appear again and again in daily conversations. These words do not make you sound smart, but they help you say what you mean. When you practice using a few hundred core words in many situations, you start to express ideas, even if they are simple. And the feeling of, I can say something, is much more important than, I know difficult words. One reason many learners freeze when speaking is that they try to remember the perfect sentence for each situation. But native speakers often use simple sentence patterns that work in many different situations. These patterns do not make you impressive, but they help you avoid silence. When you have a few flexible multi-tools, you know how to start, continue, or respond even when you are unsure. Confidence comes from knowing you have something to use, not from knowing everything. Grammar is not wrong, but learning grammar without real life is the problem. If a grammar point is not connected to a familiar situation or a real example, it stays in the notebook and never comes out when you speak. Many learners remember rules but forget when to use them. When you learn grammar through sentences you can actually use in daily life, your brain remembers it more naturally. At that point, you stop thinking about grammar and start focusing on meaning. Many people practice listening but still cannot understand native speakers, even when they know most of the words. That is because people do not speak word by word in real life. They speak in chunks, with rhythm, and they often connect or reduce sounds. When you train yourself to listen to familiar chunks instead of single words, your brain starts to recognize patterns. One day, you understand the sentence before you translate it in your head. English is not only vocabulary and grammar, it also has rhythm. The way people stress words, go up or down, and shorten sounds affects understanding a lot. Many learners cannot follow conversations not because words are hard, but because the rhythm is unfamiliar. When you get used to this rhythm, listening and speaking feel more natural, even with simple words. English starts to sound like a flow, not a list of words. An important change happens when you stop translating in your head. At first, everyone translates, but if you keep doing it for too long, your reaction will always be slow. When you allow yourself to think in simple English sentences, your brain learns to respond directly. Then one day, you answer before you realized you did not translate at all. At that moment, English becomes a tool, not a problem. Forgetting words is not failure, it is a normal part of learning. The real issue is not forgetting, but whether you meet the word again in context. When a word appears many times in familiar situations, it stays without effort. You feel lighter when you stop blaming yourself for small mistakes. Learning English is not a race to know more than others, but a habit of using it a little every day. When you focus on useful language, practice in real life, and allow mistakes, English slowly becomes familiar.
And one day you will realize you are not asking, "When will I speak English?" because you already are. If you find this video interesting and helpful, please give me a like and subscribe.